let's introduce them right now. First, I want to introduce part of our creative team. These are the executive producers of the show. And first is our creator and executive producer, the mind and the heart of this show. This is Adam Goldberg, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't he pretty? Look how pretty he is. If you want pretty, this next guy, also executive producer and part of the mind of the show, please welcome Doug Robinson. Doug Robinson of Happy Madison. All right, joining us next is the woman who plays the character. Someone gave Jeff Garlin cereal. Sugary cereal is his downfall. Joining us next is the character who plays the wonderful actress who plays Adam's sister on the show. In honor of the evening, her name will be changed from Haley Orantia to Paley Orantia. Please welcome Haley Orantia, ladies and gentlemen. The man who just thrilled you as the wrestler named Goldberg. Please welcome Barry Troy Gentile. Either way. Join us, ladies and gentlemen, a legend, a star of stage and screen. Please welcome as Pops, George Segal. Very nice. You've heard him laughing all the time. He's funnier than anything. You've seen him here on numerous occasions for Curb Your Enthusiasm, for the Little Bo Peep Christmas special. Please welcome Mr. Jeff Garlin as Murray. And finally, keep it going for the mother of all mothers, Ms. Beverly Goldberg, Wendy McLendon-Covey. Yeah.
All right, baby.
Oh, baby. Beautiful. All right. Well, let's get this going. I've prepared some remarks. First, let's take some photos. I should also welcome Mr. Ari Halpern, ladies and gentlemen. He's our script supervisor. Stand up, Ari. Stand up. There he is. Ari, you'll remember the order they came out in case we have to redo anything. All right, let's start this off by talking to our executive producer.
That's an in-joke, isn't it?
That's an in-joke.
Because he does continuity.
Right.
So if you did something in one scene and then you had to repeat it if they went again and somebody else was acting.
Could you also introduce Ginger?
I would like to introduce...
Ginger, just to have a wave to everybody.
Ginger's there.
I just met her. Not my daughter.
George, I'm going to get back.
But she was adorable, and I just thought she should get her debut today.
Excuse me.
Now, Ari would know.
I was talking.
Right. Ari would know exactly where you were interrupted. So, Ari, where was he interrupted? Go ahead, George. Sorry.
It's not so easy for me to have an actual train of thought. And for him to interrupt me when I come up with one is hurtful.
Oh, my God. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. We really did enjoy ourselves. Jeffrey?
Yes.
Wait till you're called on. All right, now, let's talk to Adam and Doug for 1 second. Clearly, we've created something of a family here. I don't know if you guys are getting that sense. And it relates to a real family, and that would be Adam Goldberg's. Adam, tell us a little bit about how this family does relate to your family.
You saw me jumping on the bed at the end of the episode. Basically, I had a show prior, and the show was canceled, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And Doug is my producer. He produces all my shows, and he said he saw my videos. I think maybe one of our first meetings. I don't even know how he came about. This was years ago, like 7 years ago. And Doug said, it's time we take out your family show. It's something the bullet you've always had in the chamber, and So it was really Doug's idea, and I had kids, and I was now a parent, so I really had perspective, and that was really it. That was kind of how the show was formed.
Now, in real life, we know that there's, well, for those of you who don't know, is it exactly the same as your real family, or what? Where are the
Yeah, I
similarities
mean,
and
the
where are
only difference is I made my oldest brother Erica, which is a pretty big difference, I suppose. And he's, sometimes he's bummed, and other times when he sees how bad Barry gets it, he's like really thankful. But other than that, I think it's pretty dead. If anything, people assume I exaggerate, but I actually pulled back a lot. My mom, openly admits she's not sweet like Beverly, as sweet or as nice sometimes, and she says we didn't hug her every day like we hug Beverly every episode. She's like, where are my hugs? But yeah, no, I mean, if anything, I pulled back. Because my family's loud, and we didn't want people turning off the TVs and screaming and running away.
And it's funny, once in a while we'll get a note from the family, right? We'll get something from Barry. He'll be very concerned about, give me an idea of give the audience an example of what kind of thing Barry might care about on a phone call.
What he might care about on a phone call?
Like when he calls in, he's got a note on something, he's got a concern.
Yeah, all Barry wanted was for me to say he was a great athlete. And I mean, if anyone's as close to the actual person, it is Barry, which I think people think it's hard to believe. One of the things I would say recently is he was complaining about the show and how it's not as dead on as he would like. And in that same conversation, he said that if Mom would have let him play football, he could have gone to the NFL and been a receiver. So she stood in his way. So I was like, are you listening to yourself?
He would have joined that pantheon of outstanding 5'10" Jewish receivers.
Of course.
Yeah.
He's watching now, so I'm going to get punched for saying.
Doug, are you responsible in any way for tempering? Is there stuff that you say to Adam, we can't do that, or that that family's too crazy, or is there anything?
We've never ever had that moment. I mean, it's his family. It's true to life. And I will say, I saw Barry this weekend, and I was with a group of people, and Barry was playing poker with us, and somebody said, "Are you big taste?" And he goes, "No, that was Adam. He rapped the whole time, but I'm really a good hockey player." So there really is the closest thing to his life. But there really hasn't been a moment where I've said that just seems too crazy.
No, some of it's true. Sometimes people say, "Well, what I like about the show." A lot of times people say, "What about those videos at the end? What about those videos at the end?" All absolutely real. They've never been staged. Right there.
I mean, that's. I assume I'll run out eventually.
No, you won't.
Okay.
That's how this whole thing started. He came in and he shows me this, and I go, that's a cute video of your family, and I don't really understand the show. He said, you don't understand, I have a lot of this. All right, great, so you have a couple tapes. No, you don't understand, I have a lot of this. So you have 10 hours. No, I have thousands of hours. And he literally, poor guy, had he videotaped his entire childhood. It's all there. He would just have a camera sitting there. Most of it is just his family watching TV, just rolling for hours on hours on end.
And the thing you just saw, what Doug put out was probably the saddest or most awesome thing was, if you notice, I'm wearing a different outfit every time I jump on the bed. So it was literally hours and hours of me just wrestling with a pillow. And Doug was like, where were you during this? I'm like, on our family vacation in Florida.
And now I know what his Florida vacation looks like. And he was showing me footage today of his entire family in there doing some stuff. I'm like, this was your vacation?
Yeah, was it raining, or was it just nice day out? Just go and wrestle.
Why would I go to a pool when there was a pillow to wrestle? That's just.
If you look at these, there's a lot. I've seen a lot of these tapes, and some of the best moments are the family exploding with swears and screaming at him, "Adam, turn off that fucking camera!"
It's a lot of that.
Well, let's talk about the casting process. We've got a great cast here. Let's talk about what was sort of how did the cast come together? Who was first? Who did you have in mind? Who was the key? Take us through it a little bit.
I think first was Beverly. And, you get picked up and immediately you're just going through lists and names, and Doug called me.
They like the script. They haven't shot anything.
No,
nothing. And Doug called immediately and was like, I know who our Beverly is. It's Wendy. I worked with her on Rules. of engagement, which was his last show, and you did a lot of episodes.
We were lucky enough, and literally every time I'd be like, Adam handed me the script, and I'm like, this is Beverly Goldberg. I know exactly who this is.
So we get that year, Wendy. Pilot season had just started, and everyone wanted Wendy, so it felt like a bake-off. And luckily, I had the video to show her and the script, and that was, we just met with her, and that was it, right?
And within maybe a minute and 30 seconds, I was ready to do it. I mean, the footage that I was shown included Adam Goldberg laying on the ground and sucking crackers into his mouth like a lizard, catching the crackers and just luring them into his mouth. And I thought, that's a show I would watch.
And did she say anything? There's a voiceover. Does she say Adam's gonna be a writer, right?
That was a tape that we showed for our pitch, and it literally is the greatest pitch I've ever been a part of. Adam took this home video footage, put it together, and it ends with him as a 10-year-old kid eating crackers off the floor, probably because his mother didn't make dinner. I have no idea why he's eating crackers off the floor. But there was a voiceover from Beverly saying, Adam's going to Hollywood, he's going to be a writer. And it literally was one of the most heartfelt things you've ever seen, because you look at him now, he's gone to Hollywood and he's been a pretty good writer. And
followed by my dad going, oh, please. That is true.
But after this crazy footage, it was what the show is. It was such an incredible, heartfelt moment, because he's sitting here and you watched that it would happen something 20 years ago, and it was every network wanted the pitch. It was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's what we showed to Wendy.
Yeah. So that was just our initial slam dunk, and so exciting. And then we went to, let's go down the line. And then Jeff, the thing about casting your family is, like, it's just so hard, because you'll see, we saw great actors auditioning, and you just go, I've loved this actor in X, Y, and Z, but it's just not my dad. And Jeff was always the one person where I was like, well, that's my dad. But we heard Jeff might not have been interested, and obviously he does HBO and he makes movies, and it wasn't even really an option. Like, yeah, we don't think Jeff's gonna do this. And then we heard that Jeff read it and then just called his agent and went, yeah, okay. And the agent was like, what is it? Just, yeah, I'll do that. So I often say I literally cast my dad to play my dad. I mean, it's just so surreal and bizarre. We dress him in the exact same outfits, and during the pilot, I took a picture of Wendy and Jeff, like, at the house, and I sent it to my mom, and my mom emailed back. She's like, oh, I don't recognize the house. Where were we? So that's totally true. So, I mean, come on. That's my dad. So, and by the way, just working with him takes care of me like my dad. Will just call for no reason and be like, you're doing a great job, and it's awesome. It's awesome. And then George, again, we got really lucky, because we went to the network and we were like, we want George Segal, and they were like, oh, great. Good. So I also showed the video to George. He actually looks like my grandfather. We just, all the work that I know from him, it was a hard role, because Pops just has to have such great energy and be so lovable, but also he's young at heart. And I mean, the minute we met with George, and you didn't know that this was based off a real family, so he saw my grandfather, you were just totally swept up with it. So we were like 3 for 3. And then the hardest thing was the kids, because you can't just go and say, I want Troy. They're like, who's, I haven't seen Nacho Libre, I don't know. So he was in Nacho Libre. So we did the whole seeing every kid actor in America.
But the first person we saw for Erica was the very first person?
Was Haley. Yeah. So she just sent it. You sent in a tape, right?
Sent in a tape.
And
that's how it works, by the way. If you want to be on,
just send in a tape.
Yeah. If you want to be a star, you just send in tapes, and they'll get a show for you. It takes a little while sometimes, but they'll usually do it in a week or two.
And actually, the same thing with Sean that plays Adam. He did one commercial. He had never been on a set. And he walked in, and I don't even think he knew what he was getting into. And Doug and I are in there, and he was just talking about how he plays video games and had really weird, odd answers like I would have had. We said, why are you in town? He goes, business.
I'm on a business trip.
We were like, really?
Business trip.
So, again, just saw the tape, basically, and cast Sean. And then Troy, was when he came in, we're like, okay, that's Barry, but you have to bring in somebody else, some other actors to the network, so they want to feel like there's choices. And we never had anybody else. We would keep picking actors, and the network and studio, or the studio would be like, we like Troy, but we don't have anyone else. So it just kept going on, where we would bring Troy back and back, just hoping to find someone else that we could bring to the network. I was getting desperate and calling my actor friends who were 30 and being like, can you shave and come in and walk on your knees? So it got to the point where there was no time left. So we said to Troy, can you just come to our table read and that'll be your audition? And Troy was such a good sport. And I think a lot of other actors, we brought him back like 4 times, would have been like, forget it. But Troy just stuck with it. And after that table read, got the part. So that was the casting. It was relatively painless. Because it's a bake-off, like I said, and every show is going for the same actors. It's really rare that, like, saying I want George Segal, and then you get George Segal. That's like, it never happens.
We usually get Charlotte Rae.
Right, we could get her.
Jeffrey?
If I could say something, though, but it's the reverse, where you're an actor and you get scripts and they all stink. And I was writing a thing and I was preparing to do more Curb, which I can do. That was like the one thing. I got to still be able to do Curb Your Enthusiasm, which if we do more, I can do it. But when I got that script, that was the reason I called my agent. I mean, I didn't call my agent and go, yeah. I called my agent and I go, this is really good. How did that happen?
You're better on this than you are on Curb Your Enthusiasm, just to let you know if it comes to a choice.
I will do both. But the script was just so wonderful and so heartfelt and so human. And a lot of times with family shows, there's no edge, there's no point of view. It does, because you watch with your family, you don't want something that's boring and flat. This is an adventure, it's fun, and I am so honored to be on this show. And so.
And now, obviously, you know, it's from a very important time of your life. It's from the 80s. And then at what point, like, how important was the 80s in turn? At what point does the period become the star of the show or a star of the show? And how do you balance it in terms of the creation of the show?
Here's the truth, and you might yell at me for saying this, but when we pitched it, we're like, we're not going to have people like sitting there playing Rubik's cubes and on a huge cell phone. But when I got in there, I love the 80s so much. There are times where I've done stuff like that. I mean, look at this. I mean, this episode on the board from moment one was Return of the Jedi and wrestling. Those were 2 things that defined my childhood. So, and I decided to put them in one episode, just like as an episode that was a celebration of these great things that we grew up with. It's hard to, like, you know, you remember all these things, and it's hard to not go to that well. You want to, and it's easy to be funny that way. I think at the end of the day, it has to be about the family and the characters. Right. So
it's all there because it does take place in the 80s. So we want to use real events that took place in the 80s, but they're never treated as jokes. They're treated sort of with the real.
It's the landscape of the show.
It's the landscape of the show, but it's also how, especially from Adam's point of view, what those things meant to him as a kid. So they're sort of all treated real. They're treated with sort of all put on a pedestal. Probably the thing we fought the most about was the Goonies, and you know, it was probably the only time we were like, we just had a different point of view on it. He was like, I'm doing this, and at that point you go, you got to do it.
What was your nickname for the Goonies episode?
It wasn't.
Adam's Folly. Adam's Folly. We can, when writers in the writers are in the room with the showrunner and the showrunner is pitching, there's a lot of. Sounds good. Yeah, I think it's pretty. Oh yeah, that should be awesome. That should be pretty. Yeah, great. And then when the showrunner leaves and goes to editing, I don't know what we're gonna do with this Goonies thing. I mean, he loves the Goonies. I guess he sees it.
This was one of those rare cases where half the writers were going, "Don't do it, don't do it." Yeah. Yeah, and then when I screened the first cut, which was just loaded with Goonie stuff, everyone looked at me and they were like, "You've ruined the show, so good job." Congrats.
But then the worst thing happened. People loved it so much. And now...
No, but that's exactly the point of all of this and how the 80s gets treated. It gets treated through the eyes of someone who genuinely, more than anyone I know, loves these things. Like when you talk about wrestling with Adam, when you talk about Star Wars with Adam, it's a whole different level of experience. And he talks about it the way you see it in the show. It's just put on a pedestal, and it's genuinely the things that influenced everything in his life.
Well, don't you own the Tauntaun?
I own the Tauntaun.
Yeah, that was his Tauntaun.
Which, again, here we are where I'm saying I'm not going to have like a giant cell phone and I have a Tauntaun to see. No, I own it, yeah.
Is that in your office now?
No, it was in my garage, and my son kept, like, every time we go in the backyard, I saw him, like, he kept inching over to the garage and would peek in and started, like, to destroy it, like, poke his fingers in it. So I called Sony, and I'm like, I need storage for my Tauntaun. My son's destroying it. And also my wife was like, please, it's taking up the whole garage. We have no room for boxes. Please get it out. So
We don't have room for your flux capacitor. We don't have room.
So yeah, so I own the Tauntaun.
Well, let's talk to this cast a little bit. Now that you've been cast, let's talk about. Let's start with Wendy. From everything we know, obviously, from what we've seen about you, there's this tremendous devotion to. It would be very easy to be overly aggressive as this mom, and yet the balance you seem to strike is that it all comes from love. And is there anything that talking to the actual Beverly that you gleaned in terms of how to play the role?
Well, I didn't get to talk to the actual Beverly until about 2 or 3 months in. So once I knew she was coming to the set, I got very nervous, and Adam didn't help because he kept saying,
I was very nervous.
"My mom is coming. My mom is coming. Is it okay if my mom comes?" I just want to remind you, my mom is coming, and she's going to want to talk to you. Is it okay if she talks to you? And with a buildup like that, I was like, I don't know if it is okay. Like, you have to tell me. She was perfectly sweet, but she is so proud to be Adam's mother. She is so proud. All of her sons, and okay, we've got the big Hollywood writer here, but you know, her other sons, they're both surgeons, right?
They're doctors.
So they did all right. Okay, they did all right.
She'll let you know that, by the way. She will tell you.
Within minutes.
Yeah.
Within minutes. She is the kind of woman that can get a compliment out of you before telling you her name. She's a little manipulator, but
I don't see it. I don't know.
You don't see it, yeah. But again, it's all because of pride. She is so proud to be the mother of these boys. And I understand, because I've seen the footage, that you were all delicious. I understand how a mom could look at these boys and just want to bury her nose in your neck. You know?
Now, what about the look? Let's talk about the look for a second. You obviously people tweet about this stuff. They say like, "Oh my God!" By the way, you can tweet this stuff. Whatever. Tweet away at. Hold on. Hashtag Paley Live. Go tweet your asses out. Sometimes your look is absolutely. There's tell the story about your look. Sometimes the wardrobe.
Sometimes I look in my closet, and I just want to cry.
It's not all your. The show gets their wardrobe from a particular.
Yeah, the real Bev Goldberg sent us many of her own personal gems, and they get featured prominently and with pride. The stuff that is not Bev's, there are several jumpsuits that are not hers. That I think, oh, it's going to be an uncomfortable day at the office if I have to wear that. But yeah. Mom sent us boxes and boxes.
She's a pack rat, so she had an excuse to give away all her sweaters, and she was so excited.
But she wants them back, right?
She does want them back.
She does want them all back. When the show ends, she's going to be waiting.
It's really
with her FedEx number.
It's funny to be in editing and Adam to stop the tape. Adam will stop an edit and say, "Oh, I remember that sweater. Look at that. That one I remember.
It's bizarre.
Jeff, talk a little bit about this. In full disclosure, I've known Jeff since before he was a dad and before he would ever be cast as a dad. And now he seems like all of our dads. I mean, Adam said it. And what's that like to be a dad in real life and to be a dad on TV at this point?
It's a little bit bizarre for me in terms of the Goldbergs Because my wife is very similar to Beverly. Oh, it's disturbing. And also, she has blonde hair. She doesn't have a big thing going, but she's more like this. But my wife is similar in so many ways to Beverly Goldberg and acknowledges it and will turn to me after episodes and go, "It's weird, isn't it?" And so many times she's talking to me on the set, in the scene, I go, "Where am I? Am I home?" And here's the other weird thing. I don't have a daughter, but I have 2 boys who are the exact same age as my boys on television. And there's a similar, I mean, it's like I'm at home going, wait, I just worked all day and I'm doing the same thing. This is crazy. And at home, I drop my pants the minute I walk in. So I don't wear tighty whities. That's the only difference. So when you say, what's it like? It's never ending. When we're in production, my life just goes on and on and on. And it's all the same. Crazy.
Yeah, now, the tidy whities thing, that was part of the audition? Did you have
No, but I was told.
It was a leap of faith.
It was, they didn't tell me. I mean, we already agreed that I was going to do it and all that. And they said, "But you guys said to me, would you have trouble with this?" And no. I'm fine with it, you know.
Apparently, women like his legs, he gets letters.
Well, yes, but that's not why I do it. If it so happens that women find my 51-year-old legs attractive, who am I to argue?
It is really funny to be on the set because you're there a really long time every day, and certain things, like, you just become very comfortable with yourself. And Jeff will just be standing, like, I'm standing there talking to Jeff Garlin in his underwear, just standing there.
And we go over to the craft service table.
Yes.
I walk around in slippers and my underwear and a t-shirt.
You're eating.
You want your robe? Nah, I don't care. You know, I'm almost like a PG version of Lena Dunham.
So many opportunities, I'm not going to say a thing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Let's talk to George for a sec. George, one of the comments that I get consistently about the show is how much people love the relationship between you and Adam. And how, is that something you've cultivated? Is that something that just came naturally in the acting? Did you feel there was chemistry initially? Speak to that a little bit if you can.
Speak to that a little bit if you can. I don't recognize you, Lou.
I know.
All right, hold on 1 second, and I'm just gonna. I just want to say one thing. Lou, you know, Adam is busy all the time in editing and writing. He's not on the set very often. Lou's job is he's Adam's eyes on the set, and he's Lou's eyes. And George loves Lou and relies on Lou, but he I can and Lou can make George a bit crazy. And the joy you just brought me, looking at him going, I don't recognize you, Lou. It's the greatest thing ever. Awesome.
Well, let me know one thing. One of my favorite stories, Lou came up. He's like, I got something to tell you. I lost my temper. George yelled at me. I yelled at George. And then he comes up and he goes, wasn't that great? We were mixing it up. Yeah. This is the way it's supposed to be, you and me.
George comes up to me and goes, there's nothing I like better than seeing you in a state of high agitation.
And I took a survey of our crew. I said, who is it funnier when George gets angry at? Myself or Lou? And the first person goes, you, Jeff. And then the entire crew, one after another, went, Lou, 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 Lou. And I have to say, the joy it brings me, oh my God. Oh my God, it makes me so happy.
Well, like everything else, you've just eaten up my segment.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, Troy. Okay, what was Richard Burton like?
Troy? You worked with him.
George, tell me, come on. This is a guy who has moved into can I tell people how old you are?
Please, I'm not doing any talking tonight.
The guy is 80 years old and a consummate professional. He suffers fools very poorly, so this job has been excruciating for him. How have you made the adjustment? Go!
I've never seen him like this. Go.
Go. Tell us a little bit about this process as opposed to working in film, or even, he did Just Shoot Me before this. How is this show different from other shows you've worked on, and what is, I would guess, how would you, now we have a chance to do a little feedback. How would you change things for next year?
Look, I'm very happy in my work. I love the people that I work with. They have regard for me, which I appreciate. What more can a man ask?
There is truly not a day. There is truly not a day that I don't go to work when he's working with me and I don't think to myself, oh my God, I'm working with George Segal. Every single time. I can't believe it. And also, he's happy to answer questions about Roller Coaster, about Elizabeth Taylor, but you'll answer any, and always great story. I mean, I'm working with George Segal. That's all I have to say. And yes, I do frustrate him, but I love him so much, and I look out for him every day. He means the world to me. That's all.
Don't you wish Sean was here right now?
Sean?
We're going to talk about
No,
what
I
are you
was
doing?
just
What are you doing?
By the way, I'm going to pitch this show. This is what I want to say, right here. That's the show.
George is not cotton to the compliments, ladies and gentlemen. He does not love to be fawned over.
He says thank you.
Okay. All right. Troy. Troy.
Yeah.
No one burns more calories on that set than Troy Gentile. You can talk about a guy who works his ass off. We've had him do so much this year. What would you say what was the hardest thing to do physically this year?
The hardest thing to do physically?
Yeah.
It was really hard for me to learn roller skating. And that was the first. It's pretty crazy to think that, but it was the first episode coming off the pilot. And I was very worried because you wanted me to be good at roller skating, and I am not good. I don't know how to ride a skateboard. I'm not good with that type of stuff.
In the Goonies,
roller skating. The Goonies was.
What was the hard part there?
It was just strenuous, and we were sick. Me and Haley had the worst cold you can ask for, and we were crawling and picking up and riding bikes with little children, and it was just.
Troy comes up to me. We're shooting the bike thing. We're out in the street, and we're about to launch these kids in a sort of a Blue Angels formation of bikes down the street, and you have to do it under a crane shot, and it's got to be done to time. And Troy says, "Hey, I don't really know how to ride a bike."
Now you know why I was worried about the roller skating. I'm not that great at that type of stuff.
I just saw you ride. He goes, "Yeah, I was kind of. I don't really know how to do it." He goes, "I didn't really have a childhood." Like we're gonna work this out in 35 seconds. We gotta shoot this thing.
Luckily, it came out good.
Came out great.
You could still, if you look closely, you could still see.
Troy always says to me after he'll do an incredible thing. He'll be bouncing off the top rope as Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and he'll kill himself and be pouring sweat. And he'll go, "Did we get it?" What am I? You can't say no. He'll have to do it again. He'll die. You can't do it again.
Yeah.
You're amazing, man.
Thank you.
He's amazing.
Haley?
He's amazing.
He is amazing.
Thank you.
He is amazing. Haley,
Yes.
this is your first shot at TV, right? I mean, how did you come to this? How did it all start?
Well, I'm a singer first and foremost, and I kind of came into the acting thing in a really strange way. It was never something that I did when I was little, and I was like, oh, I want to be an actress. But I went to a bunch of record label heads because I was trying to get signed when I was younger, and they said that if you don't have a platform, then we're not going to put the money behind you to do music. So I was like, fine, I'll try and get a TV show. And
Again, this is how you do it.
but then, like, once I got into it, I absolutely loved acting in the process, and I got so lucky because I sent in a tape and I got a part, and not only did it get picked up, but it's doing so well. And on top of that, it's been such a blessing being able to work with everyone on set, because from what I've heard, since I've never been on a show before, it's kind of rare to have a group that meshes so well and we bond on and off set. And so I don't know, I'm really lucky and I'm happy to be a part of it, especially as my first thing.
She is dynamite, this one.
Thank you.
One of the big conversations on the set is always, "You never done this before? Are you kidding me? You were just great. That's nuts."
Yeah.
I mean, the episode which airs Tuesday, right? Is that where she breaks down?
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
tomorrow. Oh my God.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Were you going to say one?
If I can brag as not really her mother. This girl is so funny and naturally witty. Like, they don't make them any better. I know when I have a day of shooting with Haley, it's going to be effortless. It's going to be perfection. She gives as well as she gets. I don't get it. For someone of this age to make such informed choices, I mean, it is an absolute
But that's
pleasure.
why it's always confusing to us.
Yeah.
Like, is this a lie they're playing?
Are you
out?
lying? Yeah, exactly.
What's going on? This is crazy.
And
I
has-
love acting with her.
It's the best. And this kid is loved. We have baby pictures of all our little kittens here, all around the house. You've never seen parents photograph their child in such exhausting detail. They love her so much. It just warms your heart to see.
Yeah,
I
my
love her
mom and dad
parents.
are
I love her whole life. I wish, I could be adopted by the Orantia clan.
I met with her parents, and they were like, "No, seriously, if she acts up, you call us. We will put her in her place. We're not kidding. We're not kidding."
She's been a handful. I want to talk for a second about the world's nicest kid.
No. You're screwing that up. He is the nicest person
That's
I have
true.
ever met.
We're
Forget children. And Ginger, I'm sure you're lovely. But Sean is the nicest person I have ever met. I mean, the greatest person, the nicest person. So I always feel when they say the nicest kid, that's like almost an insult. I mean, he's remarkable.
He's an unbelievable kid, and he's also an amazing study. When Adam, do you want to tell do you want to speak to about how much he's grown into this role and how critical he is to the show?
I mean, when we had him in the pilot, again, both Haley and Sean had never been on a set before. And acting is really hard. Like, you have to remember your lines, and he had video cameras, and you see in the pilot, he's sometimes like looking down to see where his mark is, where he's supposed to stand. And then, so after the pilot, we were like, okay, he's never done it before. And to see his growth, like, so quickly to, I mean, within an episode, it was like he'd been doing it his whole life. It was really bizarre, actually. And just being in the editing room, when any of these actors mess up, it's an immediate F-bomb.
Yeah.
And with Sean, you would think he's being around adults all day, you'd pick it up, but it's still, even the last episode, oh gosh, I'm sorry.
so sorry.
I'm sorry.
May I please have my line again?
Yeah. Whenever if he ever, actors.
And then also when they give him the line, thank you.
Yes. Whenever an
He's
actor
amazing.
doesn't know, you call for the line, please, and then he goes like this. Okay, thank you.
That is exactly
And what people don't realize is that he has two jobs.
Yeah.
He's going to school and he's acting and working his ass off. And this is not an easy show to film on. It's difficult. We work 12-hour, 11-hour days. And me being a child actor and me seeing him and do that and being on a TV series, which is a whole other thing. It's incredible. And he's such a smart kid.
Yeah.
And he knows how important school is. And that's what's really, really
It's
cool
crazy
to
how
me.
this kid is beloved by everybody. And the last day we were filming, He just was bawling. But I actually think, to be honest, as much as we all love him, I don't think anyone loves him more than you. You every day, he'll say to me like his father, he goes, "Can you believe this kid?" When we're sitting at the table, Troy will always go, "Can you believe him? He's unbelievable. He's wonderful." Like Troy will go, "It's great."
And whatever anti-growth serum his parents are shooting him up with is doing the trick, because he actually diminished in size during the year. He actually shrunk a little. He's an unbelievable kid, and we miss him. We can't wait to see him.
Oh yeah, my God.
And the
I miss
relationship
him.
between you.
I'm going to see him in May.
What?
Yes. Yeah, I got him a
don't
gig.
like this.
He's going to be singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Wrigley
Oh
Field.
my God!
No way.
And I'm going to go there and meet him. Yeah.
Maybe he's watching. Hi, Sean.
Sean, because
We love you, Sean.
Sean's in Chicago right now. When he finishes this, he has to go and be an actual ninth grader.
And he goes to
He
like
had
regular
to
school.
start a new school.
He started a new
he
school in the middle of the year, and he was nervous about it. And I said, I think everyone's going to be able to handle the television star in the class. I mean,
In Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, everyone will be cool with it. I hope it worked out. I don't even know.
But one of my favorite moments in the show is between George and Sean when they came in. They'd come in from tennis, and they'd beaten whoever the Sikorsky twins, and George says to him. He says, Beverly says, "Can you stay for dinner, Pop? Can you stay for dinner, Dad? I made dinner." And he said, "No, I can't. I have a date with one of the Sikorsky twins, Anna, I think, or was it Helen? Which one's the sexy one?" And Sean says, "I don't know. I don't see what you see."
By the way, the best scenes on the show are George and Sean. They're magical. It's just their relationship right from the get-go. Wow.
Yeah. George, and they don't get along. George hates this kid. George.
It'd be funny if you were W.C. Fields. Get the kid away from me. Only on camera.
I'm trying to think. Do we have time for some questions? Is it time for questions? We're all alone. It's all right. Good. All right. Well, let's turn the house lights up. Wait, just a minute, sir. Jeez, Pete. We're going to turn the house lights up, and when I call on you, don't jump to your feet and ask the question. Let them get a mic on you so everyone in the audience can hear, and people at home can hear.
By the way, there's probably a lot of people watching in their underwear.
That's true.
There are, and I speak for you.
Live tweet
people.
underwear wearers.
Yeah.
So let's. By the way, we have a couple other people. Who else from the staff is here tonight? We have Aaron Kazander. Oh, look at this! Stand up, there, people. Courtney's here. Aaron Kazander. Look at that. Oh, look at John from Sony. Oh my gosh, how about that? Don't you wish the show was picked
Mr.
up,
Ben
everybody?
Vereen, everybody. Machina Easton.
Oh my gosh. Visiting
People are
dignitaries.
looking around thinking she was in the house.
Oh my gosh. All right, so let's start with the questions. This gentleman raised his hand first. He's got a microphone.
Okay. Obviously, we all love the show. And my wife constantly says that the mother on that show is my sister. And I want to know how many of you are hear daily from people, you are exactly like my fill-in-the-blank relative.
Every day. Every day. I get emails or tweets from people who want to relay their smothering experiences. You know, I love hearing about it. I'm thrilled that people are responding.
I get a lot of, "You're just like my dad, but way more. You know, Susie is just like my wife." Susie, as in Susie Essman on Curb Your Enthusiasm, you would never yell and swear at me, and that's all she does, and I feel bad for them.
Bad for America. Anybody else? Go ahead, right behind. Let's get a mic on her.
I'm wondering, can you discuss the chronology of the 1980-something beginning of each show? Do you ever worry when you focus on like a movie like Return of the Jedi, which is early 80s, and Say Anything, which is late 80s, yet they don't age?
Well, here's, I've talked a lot about it. I mean, I think when I realized it was the greatest choice, I believe it's the reason the show got a second year. I mean, I think.
You just blew.
So we got it?
Oh, not official.
We don't know that.
It's not official.
So long, suckers!
It's not official. But look, yeah, I was able to tell the stories. Once I freed myself from worrying about chronology, and look, I'm a geeky guy. I wrote the movie Fanboys. Like, I'm there on the internet going, well, that's not true. That's not canon. So, like, I get it. But once I freed myself of that, I was just able to do anything I wanted. And it was like I could tell the stories that people would relate to and not have to worry. Now, I know it drives some people nuts, and all I could say is just try and go with it, because a lot of people have been. Now,
and we had a lot of conversations about it. When you look back on your life 30 years ago, you don't remember exactly where you were, what year it was. You sort of have a general knowledge of what happened. But, if somebody said to you, how old are you when Return of the Jedi came out? Right off the top of your head, you wouldn't know exactly where you were or what it was. You'd have a general idea, maybe 12,
Except
maybe
for
13,
Adam, who
14.
remembers exactly.
But the whole show is looking back. It's about memories. And when you look back on your memories, they're not exact.
I love Doug's son did say, well, I'm confused. Why do they know the date but not the year? I was like, that's the problem. It was November 7th, 1980 something. Well, it was November 7th.
Right.
That's the other reason I think it was great, too, was I started stressing about if we were to get a second season. And I said, what do I do? Like, what grade are they in? And Doug was like, just keep them the same grade. It's 1980 something. So we don't have to even age them until it's clear that they're getting older. So it's
point,
like
Doug.
we can go forever. It's forever the 80s.
A lot of people respond to, what song is in an episode and how do we choose the music, and I think let's talk about that for a second, because there are whole sections of song, there are whole genres that we haven't really even touched. No Elvis Costello, you know what I mean? And not a lot of that is money. Sometimes it's money, but I think, this is my pitch, we just buy one super, super expensive song for next year, and I'm pitching Rebel Yell by Billy Idol.
Sure.
And we just use that in every episode for everything, and that's it. We just blow our wad on it.
Jeff just talk about, he just thinks I choose the lamest power ballads. That's all I want to do.
My taste in music, the most commercial thing that I listened to in the 80s would be Prince. The Clash. there's so many things.
U2, you were into
U2.
U2.
Wait till
Stan Ridgway.
That's really obscure. I wouldn't even suggest that. But if we could use Gloria by U2, I'd be thrilled. But you were a little kid in the 80s, so your taste is lame. What do you want? I've said that to him. So
Yeah,
it's not like,
when we did REO
Peter
Speedwagon.
Gabriel's song.
Peter Gabriel.
What are you talking
No,
about? We got
all right,
Run
so
DMC.
one time. One time.
And The Cure.
When we were doing REO Speedwagon in the pilot, Jeff goes, I can't do this. It's just, I'm starting to love the song. It's in my head all the time. I can't get it out. What are you doing to me? It's torturing him.
Question right there.
Just curious, where did you grow up? And, all your, you said you've got thousands of hours of footage. You must have really driven your family nuts videotaping.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then the next question is, next year, do you see Mr. T?
To answer the first question, I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia, and lots of local references. One of my proudest things was Goonies Treasure Hunt in Jenkintown, where I grew up. I did drive my family crazy. And we will, if Mr. T wants to put his likeness on the show, we will pay for it. We will be more than happy to do, because I loved the A-Team. We've basically been told that Mr. T is not interested in using his old likeness, which is a big bummer. Because, again, I got major Mr. T love. I ate Mr. T cereal. I watched the show where
Didn't we have that on the show, Mr. T cereal?
Yeah, he traveled around in a van with a bunch of gymnasts. He had a cartoon, and I watched it. Right? Am I right? Does anyone know that? Remember that one? Yeah.
The Mr. T cartoon, I did not.
Oh, yeah.
I was too busy being an adult.
He taught me don't do drugs. He taught me that.
How about in the back right there? Can we get a mic on you? There we go.
Hi, going off of that, we're from Abington. And it's just so spot on, and you get the real feel of it from the show, even though it's clearly shot here. I just want to comment on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's go middle. I'll get you.
Friends in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, sorry. I went to George School, which was in Newtown, which is near Doylestown, which is near Langhorne.
I love the Philly references too. I also wanted to ask you, when I've interviewed showrunners before or talked to showrunners who have had shows where some of the characters seemed to be Jewish, but it was never really specifically either stated or sometimes it was maybe even shied away from. What about the fall of 2013 when you guys premiered made it no longer an issue, which I'm happy to see? And will there be any specific examples in the show coming up? I mean, I think the Adam character is probably older than bar mitzvah age, but I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see it too. We go back and forth on when's the time and is he too old or not. I think I just wanted to do what I grew up with, which was, my dad calling me a putz.
We say tuchus.
We said a lot of the Yiddish words. I just wanted to do my family. And the great thing is, like, on Twitter, just seeing all kinds of people from all different cultures just saying, oh, your dad is my dad, your mom is my mom. That's when I know that it's not just this narrow thing. It's like, that makes me feel like great. That I'm really, I didn't, when we were doing the pilot, we were like, will anyone respond to this family? The language of the show, it's loud, and they're not like a typical family you usually see on TV. And the fact that everyone will just, all different kinds of people say that they're relating so much is just, it's the best thing for me.
Sure.
And will there be any Jewish episodes? Like
we'd love to.
A dreidel episode or something?
Dreidels.
Wendy, what did you want to say?
To speak to that, and hello, Jim, how are you? Frank, hi. I thought I was going to be recast after the pilot. I was afraid that I was going to, for not being Jewish enough.
What are you talking about? That's crazy. You're such a big bowl of Jew.
My man.
You put those wigs on and those outfits. You're every friend of my mother's.
Well, there it is.
Everyone. You're Shelley
Job
Lickneck.
security, kids.
That's so funny. Right down here. You want to ask? I can just repeat your question if you want.
It was for Troy and for Haley.
For Troy and Haley. Oh, go ahead. Here we go.
For Troy and Haley. I know you guys weren't alive in the 80s, so I was wondering if you did your research and what your favorite 80s icon, 80s experience was, and what you thought is just truly ridiculous and afraid to see.
Well, for me, I didn't grow up in the 80s, but honestly, Adam helped a lot with just the writing and everything, and Lou just with all the little different things, like being on set, it's so easy to get into the mindset of the 80s. I know my mom and dad helped me by telling me about their childhood and everything. As far as, sorry, Mom and Dad. And then as far as icons go, I'm a big Whitney Houston fan. And so for me, I think you should put I Want to Dance with Somebody in the episode. But I don't know.
That's actually a really good pop song. If
Thank
you're going to put
you.
some of that stuff in.
Thank you.
That's actually a good one as opposed to the crap you use.
There's only been one time all year that the song that was scripted has actually ended up in the show.
Oh, really?
It's never...
Toto's Africa.
That was the only time.
It's tricky. It's tricky.
It's tricky.
And it's tricky.
And it's tricky.
And living.
And
Well,
hit
that,
with your best shot.
that hasn't...
No.
Okay, so three.
Unless it was something where people were singing in a car or whatever, but if we're playing music that doesn't have anything to do with what's happening in
Always
the storyline,
changes.
it always changes. Inevitably, you sit in editing and you try out different songs and you kind of sit there and something doesn't feel right and you just... We spend a lot of time trying to figure out what bad song we're going to use, Jeff.
You know, sometimes
Adam,
We need
I'm
more
sorry.
Madonna. We need
Adam,
some Madonna.
I am
Donna.
sorry, but you were a little boy then. It's okay.
Well, it's funny because ABC, like, they watched the Toto's Africa cut, And the only reason I justified using the song was because Erica wanted to do Model UN, and she was Senegal, which is in Africa. And Doug was like, dude, that's a stretch. But they were like, maybe something else besides Total Africa. It was really the only time I was like, shutting it down, doing it, don't care. That was the only time all season I was like, I can't listen to that. It has to be Total Africa. And I was a little boy, and I did like those big epic power ballads, definitely.
So, sometimes there's a weird thing where there'll be an inflection, which is a current inflection, which is not quite right. Like they would say, "Yeah, you do." I'm like, no, you can't say it like that. Troy's like, why didn't they say it? No, they did not say. We spoke a different language.
What did Troy
You
do
can't
on the
do
84s?
pounds.
Troy's
You can never do pounds either.
Ask Troy's
Yeah, Troy, what was your research for the '80s? What did you?
The writers. You guys. I mean, Adam and the whole writing team. By the way, we have the best writing team on TV. I don't care what anyone has to say.
Yeah, it's true.
You guys are the best. What you see up there is a product of them in that writing room all the time. We never see, we barely see Adam. Adam's always in there, either in the editing room or the writing room, and all the writers. And you, Lou, he is such an asset.
Any other questions?
To have
Any other questions
on the show.
Yeah, right there. This guy right here.
So when you see
Troy,
great shows,
let's
it's
be
all
respectful. There's a man
Lou.
asking questions.
Lou, you got to embrace it.
Nah,
Embrace
dude,
it.
come on, let's go.
Hi. I wanted to say that my mom's name is Beverly. And she told me, I keep telling her, Mom, you're so much like the character. And she said, no, it can't be. And then the phone keeps ringing, and it's because she was sitting on her cell phone that it's ringing. But anyway, I just wanted to ask Adam, I thought I had the golden ticket for dysfunctional Jewish families. What was like a dysfunctional thing that happened with you growing up that kind of stayed with you and contributes to your personality today?
There are two. Rich, go ahead.
Well, I've told this. I said this one before, but my first, and my mom argues about this, but it happened. My first Saturday night at NYU, I get a call from my mom, and she's like, "I'm downstairs. I brought groceries." So I'm like, "All right." So I come for groceries. I bring them up, and like, "All right." And she's like, "Well, I have bad night vision. I can't drive home, so I'm just gonna stay here." So my first Saturday night in college, my mom slept in my dorm room with me. And when I told that to the woman who became my wife, my girlfriend at the time, she goes, there's something wrong there. We got to set up some boundaries. So, but no, I mean, she says I wanted her to stay. That's the point of convention. I could safely say I did not. Please believe me. So yeah, a lot of stories like that. And that's really, again, Wendy, when we first met her, everyone wants this actress and you want to like impress her. So I just was like rapid firing these stories at Wendy. And then I realized at the end, like, am I going to scare her off? But yeah, so that gives you a little taste. Hope to do that episode.
Right in the middle.
I was a huge Sixers fan as a kid, so I love all the Dr. J uniforms. So did the real Barry run like that?
Oh, great question.
Amazing.
Great question.
Okay. Here's the deal. My brother is watching now. He just watched, I was just with him this past weekend. He watched 3 episodes, and we do a little spoiler. We do a video game one. It's airing tomorrow night, and there's a thing in there where all his friends gather, and it's 2 people. And he said, I was sleeping, and he said, I literally was going to come in and punch you in the face as you were sleeping. So he does get a short end of the stick. Some of it, that kind of stuff. My brother had a lot of friends. As far as the run goes, I think he had a lot of passion and sometimes not a lot of skill. We go back and forth. I maintain that he ran that way. He maintains that he could beat anyone in a foot race. So anyone in this room, take him on a foot race. He will beat you. What do you think?
We're going to ask our last question right here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, so when we get the DVD, any chance for commentary from your family on the episodes?
Ooh, I didn't even think of that.
By the way,
You're welcome.
Did you see the reaction? DVDs don't sell anymore, man. There's some excitement.
All right. Maybe. Yeah.
I'd buy them.
Sure. All right. Yeah, well, that'd be cool.
Well, listen. Thank you guys. We'll do that. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and before we wrap it, I want to re-acknowledge our cast and Adam and Doug, Haley Arantia, Troy Gentile, George Segal, Jeff Garlin, and Wendy McLendon-Covey. This has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.